Welcome to Hotline Weekend, your ultimate weekend getaway for nonstop excitement and entertainment. Join us every week as we bring you Metro News Hotline's most popular features, engaging interviews, and thrilling games. Kick back, relax, and relive the highlights of our most talked about segments. Hotline Weekend, your ultimate dose of fun and unforgettable moments.
All right, Albrar Al-Heeti is back. We haven't talked to her in a couple of weeks. She was on vacation. Albrar, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm refreshed post-vacation. It's good to be back.
Well, you know, sometimes you need a vacation from your vacation. You ever had one of those?
No, I feel that I have blisters on my feet to prove it, so I would like to just sit and do nothing for a while. Yeah.
There you go. There you go. All right, let's start with Apple. We have an Apple event coming in less than a week, and the plan is for a new iMac to be rolled out, which really interests me because I'm kind of in the market for a new iMac.
Well, I'm sure they did it just for you.
Oh, good.
Because, but yeah, we're expecting something related to the 24-inch iMac, which hasn't been updated since 2021. And this will be on Monday. Apple tends to do these events where they'll have their big iPhone event in September, and then there'll be something in the fall, either, October, November, where they'll either unveil new iPads or have some sort of update for their computers. So yeah, we're kind of staying tuned. We don't know a lot yet. We don't really know much, but it's expected that it will be for the 24-inch iMac.
I tell you what, tech was not a good place to be on Wall Street today. It's going to be interesting to see what Apple's earnings are going to look like. I guess that call is coming up on November 2nd, according to this story today.
Yeah, exactly. So this is kind of great timing for them to, pitch something else that could entice people. So if you are like you and shopping for a new computer, you've already got your new, somebody's already got their new iPhone in tow and just adding to that Apple ecosystem.
Hey, so let me ask you now, Coop, you don't have a desktop, right?
No, I don't.
When was the last time you had a desktop?
Man, it was probably like 13, 14 years ago.
Really?
Yeah,
really?
Yeah.
So you just operate, you don't even have a laptop, right? You basically
No, I do have a laptop. I got one for Christmas like 2 years ago, and I use it exclusively to remote into work. Like I use it for virtually nothing else at all, except for when I need to get into computers from work from home, and I use it for that. I use my phone for everything else for the most part.
Albrar, do you have a desktop?
I don't. And, I don't think I've had one since I was living at home in high school, using the one at home.
So do you do most of your stuff on your phone, or are you like Coop, you have a dedicated laptop to work on?
I only have a laptop through work, which I will use, whenever I'm at home and I need a laptop. But I primarily rely on my phone, to be honest. But I haven't had a personal laptop since college.
I gotta tell you, I kind of like working on the laptop. I like having a desktop at home. I kind of like that. All right.
It does make your life easier, but sometimes we like to make our lives difficult. Yeah. Tiny screen.
That's true. And that's one of those things where Apple gets you, because if you have one Apple product, all your stuff needs to be Apple. Because I got so tired of having to do stuff on an iMac and then copy and paste it and send it over to another operating system. That was just a mess.
Airdropping is great. Yeah.
Oh, you're absolutely right about that. Okay, so Apple TV Plus prices are going up.
Yeah, it's inevitable, right? They're all the streaming prices are going up, and Apple TV Plus is going up. So it was $7 a month, and now it is jumping to $10 a month. And, we kind of knew when Apple launched Apple TV Plus that the $5 a month price wasn't going to last forever. It was kind of just a way to entice people. There weren't a lot of titles at the time. Now they have a lot more titles, a lot more kind of acclaim for the content that they have on there. And now they're going to start charging you more for it. So, other things like Apple Arcade are also getting a price hike. That'll now be $7 a month. Apple News Plus will be $13 a month. So all the prices across the board, across so many companies are starting to go up.
One of the things I really liked about this story that you sent me about Apple TV Plus raising their prices, you gave, or the person who wrote this story gave specific instructions on how to cancel stuff.
Yes. It's our not so subtle way to say, if you're tired of paying so much for all these subscriptions, let's just help you out and walk you through how to do it. So there's, you could cancel it on your iPhone, on your Mac, on your PC. There are ways to kind of, I've actually canceled my Apple TV subscription a couple months ago just because I just had too many subscription services and I felt like I wasn't really using Apple TV Plus as much as I should if I was going to be paying for it.
I've never really had it. That's the one I don't have. And Now they're saying that they're going to revamp their Apple TV app totally to make it more immersive.
Yeah, and that's, you kind of see a lot of platforms kind of working on their interfaces to make it more catered to what you watch and what you like, and make it easier to find the things that you actually want to be watching. And that just kind of, it's to make it harder for you to be enticed to kind of delete those things. If you're like, but it has all this content that I really enjoy and it's so easy to find, then you're going to be less likely to cancel.
Don't you get the feeling, though, that in terms of streaming services and these price hikes that are just continuing, that basically everybody's looking at Netflix, and the moment they do it, everybody else kind of relaxes and said, okay, we can jump. Let's get into this, because Apple TV Plus, I mean, they're raising their prices, but they're still below most of the other stuff.
Exactly. And so that's kind of the advantage that they have, is saying, well, it's not $16 a month, it's $10 a month, at least for now. But the thing that I worry about is, when it comes to copying Netflix, that whole password sharing crackdown, limiting it to one household, that's something we're going to see more streaming companies start to do. But yeah, they all just see Netflix as kind of the lab rat, and then everybody else just does what they do. But it's kind of tough to watch as a consumer. It's
funny too. I mean, when you look at Netflix, people were saying, they're having a lot of problems. Password sharing, it looks like they have that fixed. They just boosted a bunch of subscribers, probably because of that one particular reason. Hey, what can you tell me about this social media app Laps? What's Laps all about?
This is something I've kind of just become familiar with. So basically, this is a way to kind of focus on photos, because videos are kind of taking over everywhere. You scroll through Instagram, it's a bunch of reels. TikTok is obviously videos. Laps is a social media app that basically, think of it as a digital dark room. So you take a picture through the app, and you have to wait for it to be digitally processed. And it has like a unique filter on it, kind of this retro vibe, like you would take with a disposable film camera. And then TikTok is obviously videos. Laps is a social media app that basically, think of it as a digital dark room. So you take a picture through the app, and you have to wait for it to be digitally processed. And it has like a unique filter on it, kind of this retro vibe, like you would take with a disposable film camera. And then you can decide. No one cared anymore. No one was using it. So I hope that they kind of roll it out to Android a bit sooner than that.
Yeah, Coop, when was the last time you were on Clubhouse? Have you ever been on it?
What is that? That was the audio thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I never went on there.
Yeah, I mean, I've deleted it already. There was nothing happening.
Yeah, I remember it was hot for like 3 weeks. Twitter copied it for about 2 weeks, and then the whole thing disappeared.
Finally, Albrar, what is this Google launching AR beauty ads for lip and eye products? What's this about?
Yeah, in case you didn't think your Google ads were catered enough to what would entice you to buy something, this is basically a way for companies, you think of, makeup companies or other products. Basically what you can do is you could try on things like foundation or lipstick through the Google ads. So the same way that you on the Google Shopping tab can browse through products.
Right.
This will essentially project it onto your face. And apparently, according to research, having these AR ads actually lures more customers into potentially making a purchase, because you kind of get to try it on a little bit, dig more deeply into the product, and see if it really fits what you're looking for, which is kind of fascinating.
Yeah, I'm reading some of these numbers here. According to Shopify data, AR ads often perform better than display ads, with the average 3D AR ad generating 94% higher conversion rates than its static 2D counterpart. I would have never guessed that.
I know. And I would think that, well, what is a digital projection really going to show you? But apparently, I've seen kind of Sephora even do this for a while, and people seem to be really into it. If you're shopping from home, right, and you can't go into the store and buy something, then I guess this is a good way to kind of see what it would look like. I hope it looks good. I hope it's not just very obviously plastered onto your face with these lenses, but I kind of have to try it out and see how it looks.
That's a very, very interesting story. Albrar, great to have you back. Thanks for coming on the show today.
This is Hotline Weekend.
Oh, is that the theme music for Ryan Nicholson's video game report, I hear? Oh!
Sounds like it was.
Oh, must be time for the video game report. Yeah. Ryan Nicholson is here.
Yeah, no more sports stuff. Let's get to the real news.
Okay. What is in your video game report?
All right. Well, this one's going to be kind of a short one because it's a slow news day in the world of video games. Dave, what's your favorite superhero?
My favorite superhero is probably Batman.
Coop, can you give me the in or out buzzer? Because that answer was wrong. Yeah,
it's Batman is not my favorite superhero.
No, your favorite superhero is Spider-Man.
Oh,
that's right, Spider-Man.
Okay, all right.
With his new hit game, Spider-Man 2. Yeah, want to know why it's called Spider-Man 2? Because there are 2 Spider-Man in it. Yeah, but Insomniac Games released Spider-Man 2. It's getting great reviews, and there are 2 Spider-Man in it. The classic Peter Parker and the newer Spider-Man, Miles Morales, who's been in some of Sony's animated Spider-Man movies. And what's interesting about him is he's of black and Puerto Rican descent, so the game developers were like, oh, let's put a Puerto Rican flag in his apartment. Well, they got it wrong. They accidentally put a Cuban flag in there.
How can you make a mistake like that?
How can you
terrible.
make a mistake like that? And there are several parts of the game where they intended to put a Puerto Rican flag and it's accidentally a Cuban one.
Oh, okay. I have a couple of questions.
Yep.
First of all, the name of the game is Spider-Man 2.
Marvel's Spider-Man 2.
Okay, so I would assume that would mean this is the second version of the game.
Nope, this is the third.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, and that is so confusing.
That is really confusing.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Please continue.
All right, so...
one more question. So
just one more thing.
Hey, just one more thing. So, are these games that have the Cuban flag more valuable because they're more edgy? Should you try to acquire that because it's more of an edgy game?
No, it's a mistake, and it's going to be updated, so... It'll be taken out later.
Okay.
So yeah, they're gonna fix it pretty soon. It's not the biggest story. It's just kind of funny.
How long's the game been out?
It's been out, I think about a week. Actually less than that. It came out on the 20th, I believe. So only about a few days.
What's the suggested retail price of Spider-Man 2 version 3?
I think it's like $60 to $70. It's a PlayStation 5 exclusive, and those are mostly going around for $70 right now.
Wow.
Which is $10 above the average video game price, which is kind of
What did the old Atari cartridge used to cost? I can't remember. I think I need to look that up.
If we're going with... If we adjust for inflation, the average Atari game would probably be about $90. Games used to be really expensive back in the day, but now they're actually kind of cheaper than they were. I could do a whole thing on video game pricing, but that would take like an hour.
Well, we don't want to do. We don't have time for that.
Not yet.
That sounds pretty good.
Not yet.
That's not bad.
Actually, we could devote an hour to it. I suppose.
Once you and Coop are both out on the same day, and I get free reign over the show, that's when they get to do it.
That will probably be the most downloaded podcast in the history of our show.
Yes, and also the least rated.
Hey, what kind of social media? Well, you're not on social media, so you just when you want to get the vibe, man, you just go to the streets. How did people react to your appearance on the show last week as Columbo?
I don't know.
Well, it was a hit with the people I talked to.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah. Just channel Columbo one more time and ask me one more thing.
Just one more thing, Dave. You know, you claim you don't know about Spider-Man, but I had the boys at the lab take a look at your apartment, and I found a huge stash of Spider-Man comic books. So he really is your favorite superhero. Mr. Weekly, you're under arrest.
I'm under arrest. Just one more thing.
Just
one more thing.
Ryan was right. Those cartridges back in like the early 80s cost about $20 to $30, which would be between $60 and $80 in today money.
Man,
that's expensive.
Collecting old video game tech is a hobby a lot of people have.
And you also got to put it into this perspective. There were a lot of Atari games, and most of them sucked.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine paying like $20 in 1984 money for the E.T. game.
Yeah, imagine paying that for Plaque Attack. The dentist game.
Now we're getting into my lane. All right. That's it for the video game report. Well done.
Yeah, thank you. It's
Inspector Lieutenant Columbo.
I hope they don't find later in the Spider-Man game that like Miles is wearing like a Che Guevara shirt or something like that. Then maybe it wasn't a mistake.
This is Hotline Weekend. Welcome to Hotline Weekend, your ultimate weekend getaway for nonstop excitement and entertainment.
And I'd like to take this time to go ahead and welcome on board a guest that cleared the deck for a little bit today. We want to have some fun talking to Brian Dunning. He is the host and creator of the Skeptoid podcast and Skeptoid Media, produces movies and online content. We'll get into those things here in just a little bit. But Brian, thanks so much for joining us here in West Virginia. We appreciate you coming on.
I'm so happy to be here. It's great to be on. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I was telling you during the break, and also shared with our listeners that if you want to check out our social media page on X Twitter right now, that is at WV Metro News or at WV Hotline. I shared a link to Brian's episode that he did on the Mothman, so we can localize things a little bit. I listened to that a long time ago, and it's a great podcast on the Mothman. You can check that out. Do you remember much about your episode that you did on the Mothman? You remember Point Pleasant right away when I was talking to you.
Yeah, I certainly know the basics of it. But the funny thing is when you do 900 episodes over 16, 17 years, it's hard to keep all the details fresh.
Yeah, that's the context. That's the context I was going for. You do a lot of cryptids and things along those lines. So you've done, like you said, over 900 of these things. So you have quite the roster of monsters that you've tackled.
I do. Anything cryptozoology, famous paranormal tales, ancient mysteries, conspiracy theories, UFOs and aliens. I do all of the fun stuff, but it's a bit of a different take. We're looking at the true history and the true science behind what really happened rather than just telling the popular story.
And that's what I like about it. When I was younger, I submerged myself into different folklore and different things. I owned a bookstore. We had a lot of these types of things from all over the world. And when I was younger, I kind of, the unknown is out there. You can't really disprove it. So how do you know? And as I started getting older and looking into these things, you come to find out a lot of these famous, whether it's sightings or cryptids or ghosts or whatever it is, once you start getting into the details behind the thing, it doesn't really stand up to much scrutiny most of the time.
Well, that's how a lot of people who do what I do got into this business. Science communicators, science writers. We read all the books on UFOs and Bigfoots and famous ghost stories and everything. We believed every word. We grew up being big fans of science fiction. And that's how I got into doing this, is because some of these mysteries were so intriguing to me that I really wanted to know what actually happened. And God, I'm so surprised that most people don't want to do that. They just kind of want to stop at the popular paranormal explanation. They don't want to dig in further and find out the facts.
Yeah, I think that's fun. I'll share something with you later. I'll send it to you offline after we get done with the interview. But years ago, in my capacity being in radio, me and a coworker here were we were recruited into one of those Finding Bigfoot shows, and so I got to see behind the scenes on how all of that is manufactured, very fake. But I was behind the scenes on how all that was put together. Yeah, it was pretty fun. It was a good time, but and I have that check up in my office because they did pay me for it, and I've always felt a little dirty for that, to be honest with you, a little bit with it. But I wanted to kind of to put context on today's interview with you. You've recently come out with a movie that has to do with UFOs, and there's a big documentary that was released on Netflix not long ago. That it's a well-funded thing. Amblin Entertainment's behind it. It presents itself as a documentary about some famous UFO sightings and things along those lines. So first, I thought maybe we could talk just in general about your career in with UFOs and how it culminates in this movie that you have that's come out.
Yeah, my whole my whole thing is to encourage people to want to learn more and to want to learn the true facts of what's happening. And so this movie, my new movie, which is called The UFO Movie They Don't Want You to See, which is kind of a joke title, but it's referring to all the people who make shows like Netflix Encounters that we're talking about. People, they don't want you to have a science-based perspective on these things because then you're less susceptible to their programming. So I'm encouraging people to learn astronomy. The movie teaches the relevant astronomy behind the science of alien visitation. And it uses this massive public manic obsession and interest with UFOs that's going on right now as the springboard into that.
And I like that because you're giving people the tools to arm themselves. You're not trying to tell them what to think. You're presenting information as tools that they can have in their toolbox. So when they hear these stories, when they look at these things, they know where to look to find the tools to look on it with a skeptical eye.
Exactly. That's always the idea. Help people to know how to think rather than tell them what to think.
You can find this movie, by the way. It's at theufo.movie. Theufo.movie. You can find it. It's really easy. It's part of Brian's website. You can find it over there and watch it on demand and find all kinds of information out about it. So when we talk about that and juxtapose that with what's come out on Netflix recently, and it's not just Netflix, these documentaries come out all the time. Major newspapers run out stories that it amazes me knowing a little bit of the history behind some of this stuff from listening to folks like you and Mick West, who does a lot of great skeptic things. That if you don't, that it's a credulous take a lot of times, even from our major newspapers, like the New York Times or whatever it is. They kind of buy into that narrative. Can you set the context of the history behind how this kind of overlays in with like the U.S. government and how all that came about? Because the story back in 2017, everybody kind of thought that was the smoking gun. Oh, well, the U.S. government's been studying this. That means it must be real.
Yeah, I mean that's a long story, but the short version of it is that breaking news in 2017 with, the Pentagon has this black program studying UFOs. That story was written by the very same people who had been creating this whole mythology for decades, actually. The people, a lot of the information in the story was straight up false. The names and the people who are mentioned in it and framed as whistleblowers and that kind of thing are also longtime career ufologists. They've all been working together, writing these books. They were the original people at Skinwalker Ranch chasing interdimensional ghosts and things like this. It's a group of people with very strange beliefs, and they had this outrageously successful PR campaign getting this story into the New York Times, and they've since run a number of follow-up stories in the New York Times. It blows my mind that they don't seem to, the newspaper doesn't seem to get its editors to do any due diligence into who these people are they're allowing to write these stories. And it's gone all the way through until these most recent hearings in front of Congress, where, again, it's part of these people who are the same group, these three guys who are presented as the whistleblowers, longtime ufologists. They go to UFO conferences. They write UFO books. It's astounding to me how successful this campaign has been at getting the general public fascinated with UFOs. And the result is all of these documentaries coming out on television, just trying to satisfy that demand for, we want more UFO stories.
Yeah, it's amazing to me, much like what we saw here in the U.S. in front of Congress. The same thing happened in Mexico just a couple weeks ago. This quote unquote evidence is presented in front of politicians, not scientists, which I think should be a caveat that a lot of people recognize right away. Yet we seem to just skip over that when it comes to, if we're going to believe what the popular narrative is.
Yeah. And that's because this is a storytelling, thing in society. This is not a science discovery. It's a storytelling thing. There's been no science discoveries related to UFOs. There's been no news as far as aliens being detected. This is entirely a case of mostly old UFO stories getting recycled and just retold and very effectively and drumming up public interest in the subject.
How is the portrayal through media, through the various outlets in this belief? What is the ramifications of that? This isn't just something that you do, although it's, what you do and there is a level of fun to it, but there's also a real level of societal responsibility with knowing what is true or what you can find out is actually true or a fact.
Yeah, I mean, one of the classic examples we talk about is, hey, someone believes that grandma's poodle is psychic. What harm does that belief do? Well, no harm by itself, but a little bit of belief in something that's false like that is kind of a gateway drug to larger and larger beliefs that are false. And then you got people believing in conspiracy theories. And then we have January 6th and all of these things happening. And these are all cases of just a little bit of a seed of belief in the supernatural, blossoming and growing and opening the door to beliefs in other things that aren't true. So I do believe that it really is important to get people, to steer people's interest toward finding out real facts and learning the real science and the real history. I think those lessons are more interesting. I think it's more rewarding, and it just helps you make better life choices and helps you avoid making these poor life choices that we're seeing more and more.
You can enjoy a good story without having to believe all of it. I mean, there is fiction. It's a huge genre of film out there. So it's okay to have stories that are from your area, from your neighborhood, whatever it might be, and you can have some fun telling them under the covers at night or at Halloween or something like that. But to tell the stories and then to actually believe them are two different things.
Absolutely. Like I said, almost everyone who's a science writer is a big fan of science fiction and everything else. I can enjoy any kind of a movie. I don't have to think it's true. And some of these UFO stories are fun stories, but the problem is they are being presented as if they are true. And that's where they cross the line into, in my opinion, being sort of unethical programming. If
we take a look at the Netflix documentary that came out that's promoted by Amblin Entertainment, things along those lines, the story, I think there's 4 stories that they detail in this, and all of these in some way, shape, or form have already been debunked. They've already been through the ringer, and if you do the proper amount of research, you can find out that these are very much not true, verifiably so.
This is Hotline Weekend.
Hey, let me bring to the stage Kathy Mattea, the host of Mountain Stage, coming to us live from Nashville this afternoon. Hey, Kathy, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am doing just fine as well. It is so good to have you back on the show. Hey, before we get into the Mountain Stage stuff, you went to see the Taylor Swift concert movie, right?
I did.
So, you're a professional performer. What was your take on the movie, and what were the people in the theater acting out while you were at the movie?
There were young people down front, and they were all singing along, and my biggest fear, being an older person, is that they just stand for the whole movie. I'm like, I don't want to stand for 3 hours. But it wasn't like that. And everybody was enthusiastic and everybody sang along. But the thing that struck me was there were people older than me in line, and there were people younger than me in line. The youngest person I saw was maybe 6 or 8, a young girl with her parents. And the oldest person was, I don't know, some people I knew in their 70s were there. And maybe late 70s, like a couple in their late 70s who were like, we're going to see this thing. And I thought, what a beautiful thing to have your fan base be that wide.
So were people all around you singing with the stuff on the movie?
Yes, I did take a young person with me to translate Taylorese for me. And so, I got a double concert because the person to my left was singing very loudly in my ear the whole night. And I had to let her do that because she's grown up with, Taylor Swift is her Beatles.
Okay.
And so I was like, I thought this is exactly what the Beatles did, right? They wrote ditties. They wrote She Loves You, Yeah, Yeah, Yeah. And then they grew up and their audience grew up with them. And Taylor Swift is exactly the same thing.
Oh, that's funny.
And I was struck by the songwriting, first of all. Let alone all the rest of it, that was so fun and amazing. But the songwriting was just brilliant. There were so many lines that stopped me in my tracks that I had never heard up close before. And I just loved it.
That's great. You know what, though? I have to tell you, I'm not a big fan of going to a concert and the person sitting next to me just sings the songs the whole night. I know. It's like, hey, I'm glad you know the entire Aerosmith catalog. Props to you, but I didn't come here for you. I came here to hear the band.
Well, I love my friend like a daughter, and I know how much it meant. It took me a long time to talk her out of buying me a ticket to the stadium concert, which was 4 or 5 hours long. And so I thought, I am doing this as much to watch her see this as I am to see it myself. Plus, I get to see the concert, and I'm in a squishy chair, and I'm in air conditioning, and I got popcorn, and I'm very comfortable. And so I was aware that I was there as much to celebrate her excitement as I was to see it myself. Both things were true at the same time.
Hey, let's get into Mountain Stage because it's a very special show coming on Saturday, November the 18th. Now, normally the show is on a Sunday, but this special show is a Saturday. What's it all about?
Well, we're going to do a show, it's going to be a great night, with the symphony, the West Virginia Symphony Orchestra. And Maurice Cohn is the director. I haven't met him, but I've heard a lot about him. And Judy Collins is the special guest. And, she's an icon. She's like 80-something. She is singing better than ever. Everybody's been talking about it. She's out kind of on a 55. It's the 55th anniversary of her breakthrough album, which was called Wildflowers. Mm-hmm. And so she's doing a lot of those songs with symphonic arrangements. And, I mean, her voice with a symphony. In fact, just telling you about it, all the hair on my arms is standing up. I'm just getting chills. We also have a second artist with us named Gabriel Kahane, who I was not familiar with, but he is the creative chair of the Oregon Symphony, but he also is like a composer and a singer-songwriter, and his stuff is just beautiful. And then Bob Thompson's going to do some stuff, and Julie's going to do some stuff, Julie Adams, and I'm going to sing a song or two with the symphony. So it's going to be kind of a complete left turn for the symphony and for the Mountain Stage and for the way those two entities come together. And it's a little scary and very exciting.
There you go. There you go. So that's a very special show. That'll be Saturday, November the 18th. Coop, let's play a little music, and why don't we start with Judy Collins? This is Since You've Asked by Judy Collins.
Give you since you've asked is all my time together. Take the rugged sunny days, the warm and rocky weather. Take the roads that I have walked along, looking for tomorrow's time, peace of mind. As my life spills into yours, changing with the hours, filling up the world with time, turning time to flowers. I can show you all the songs that I never sang to one man before.
Now, let me ask you this, Kathy. Will she be singing someday soon at this show?
I haven't seen her set list, but if I had to lay down in front of a bus on a bet, I'd say absolutely.
Oh, good.
It's one of her signature songs.
It's fantastic. Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah. Gabriel Kahane, we've got a little music from him. Let's have it, Coop.
A long grey silence had ambled down the coast. You drew in sand all the things we'd miss the most. Little love, little love. Little love, little love. Little love, little love. I hope we die here when we're old.
So this is going to be a very special show for Mountain Stage, Saturday, November 18th, in collaboration with the West Virginia Symphony Orchestra and the new music director, Maurice Cohn. Coop, we got to get him on the show. We got to get him on the show.
Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah. That's a great idea.
Yeah, get him on the show, and we'll do you a little bit more publicity for that. I tell you what, Kathy, you're missing a great day here in Charleston. It is perfect here, about 79 degrees. How you doing down in Nashville?
About the same. It's been a gorgeous week. We need rain really bad, but we're all enjoying the sunshine so much, so we're kind of torn.
All right, good deal. Well, thanks for coming on the show to tell us about this very special program.
Good to hear your voice, Dave.
All right, Kathy Mattea. Kathy Mattea, the host of Mountain Stage. Once again, that is Saturday, November 18th. The West Virginia Symphony and new music director Maurice Cohn. That's going to be a great show. Judy Collins, I mean, come on. She is fantastic. Okay, I wanted to play a little other stuff here. Coop and I touched on this just briefly in the 3 o'clock hour. The news came out today that the Beatles' final song, Now and Then, is going to be released worldwide next Thursday, a week from today, November the 2nd, at 10 a.m. Eastern. And so it marks the last song written by John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr Paul and Ringo, who was just here in Charleston recently, finished the song together more than 40 years after its inception. There is also a documentary that is going to be released involving Peter Jackson. In tandem with this, we have the trailer for this that came out today. It's about 34 seconds. Let's hear it.
When we lost John, we knew that it was really over.
I was talking to Yoko, and she said, I think I've got a tape of John.
Paul called me up and said he'd like to work on Now and Then. He put the bass on, I put the drums on.
It's the last song that my dad and Paul and George and Ringo will get to make together.
How lucky was I to have those men in my life?
There you go. So we'll be talking about that quite a bit next week. We'll see how it goes, Coop. We'll see how it goes.
Man, I'm going to just be buried in skepticism, so hopefully I am pleasantly surprised.
I had one other thing I wanted to get to. A couple actually. We may do a couple of things at 4:33. But Duran Duran's got a new album out on Friday, Simon Le Bon's birthday. He'll be 65 years old. So this album has their new album has 3 new songs. It's got some reworked old Duran Duran hits and some covers, including this cover of the Talking Heads' Psycho Killer. Here's just a little bit of that.
Can't seem to face up to the facts. I'm tense and nervous and I can't relax. Can't sleep 'cause my back's on fire. Don't touch me, I'm a real live wire. Psycho killer, qu'est-ce que c'est? Run, 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 run away.
The new album from Duran Duran is called Dance Macabre, and it comes out on Friday.
This is Hotline Weekend. Welcome to Hotline Weekend, your ultimate weekend getaway for nonstop excitement and entertainment.
Play the intro for Aristotle Jones.
Oh, those West Virginia.
I tell you what, that last note would shatter glass, man, from 100 yards away. That's a good one. Aristotle Jones.
Yeah.
How you doing, big guy?
I'm doing good, man. I was just sitting here pondering if we were to bring a bowl to West Virginia, we could call it the Sounds Good West Virginia Bowl. How about that?
I like where you're going with that.
Saying, you know, people who can turn that down.
Yeah.
I mean, people all over like the country be like, I got to go to this bowl in West Virginia. It's called Sounds Good. They're like, I'm in.
Well, you know, they had to move the Bahamas Bowl this year to Charlotte. I'm thinking, forget Charlotte. Just play it lately.
Just bring it on up the mountain, man. Come on.
Hey, in this segment, we like to put the spotlight on local musicians and the venues in our state in which they play. Let's talk a little bit about where to go in Huntington to see a good show.
Well, this weekend, you know, is a fun weekend of the creative renaissance hitting the western part of the state. And speaking of the western part of the state, in Huntington, if you go to the West Edge Factory, which is a great kind of artist co-op that's developing there on the west end of town, this weekend they have what's called the Localization Pop-Up Show Weekend. And the whole point of this thing is, you know, it's a one-of-a-kind experience, and their goal is to create an environment where artists, craftspeople, musicians, creatives, and art patrons can just connect with one another. It's going to be art shows, videos, live music, after party. And so you just want to go to check out Localization Huntington on Facebook and find out how you can engage and be part of that. And look, they also do all kinds of like great social media content that they film out there for musicians. So I'm sure you've probably seen the West Edge Factory on some of your cool content, you know, if you've been following local musicians.
All right, so the West Edge Factory in Huntington, great place to see a show, Localization, a pop-up show this weekend. Speaking of Huntington, tell me a little bit about the long-lost Somethings.
Well, to tie into what's going on with the Localization Festival there, there's an amazing band, indie rock band out of Huntington called the Long Lost Somethings. Unfortunately, one of their members, passed away tragically over the last weekend. And so the Huntington community is really suffering, and they were going to be performing at the Localization after party with all the musicians. So instead, afterwards, they're going to be doing a memorial tribute for their band member there, and it's Jake Wheeler. He just passed away, so I want to really pass on our condolences to the Huntington music scene and the West Virginia music scene. But I thought it would be fitting to play a song from the Long Lost Somethings, and here is Factory Reset.
There we go, Long Lost Somethings, Factory Reset.
The past is the present. The present is the past. What I counted on counting on wasn't something that could last. We all raised ourselves, 'cause no one could do it better. I got so nervous as he got louder. Factory reset. Maybe I'd forget that I was your device to be disposed. And every regret was only conflict that wasn't killing me, but it was close. Factory reset. Maybe I'd forget that I was your device to be disposed. And every regret was only conflict that wasn't killing me, but it was close.
All right, there you go. Long Lost Somethings, Factory Reset. Aristotle Jones, sounds good, West Virginia. Aristotle, tell me a little bit about the Deckers Creek fundraiser.
So, Dave, I've been looking for a reason for you to come up in Morgantown and broadcast the show from there. And so here is the perfect connection of craft beers and soul music. And it's a fundraiser for the Friends of Deckers Creek. It's called Drafts on Deckers Creek, and it's going to be at the Morgantown Brewing Company. It's got performances by a good friend of mine, and air band Kevin, and his band Weary Space Wanderers, and Adrian and the Soul Miners are going to be performing, and my band is also going to be performing there. It goes on Friday, November 3rd, from 4 to 10 p.m. You can sip on some craft beers and enjoy some good soul music. You do have to buy advance tickets, Dave. I might be able to get you in. But if your tickets are on sale now, they're $30 in advance and $35 at the door. And, you know, I roll with the horn section, and I just got to give a big shout-out to my horn arranger, C.J. Wren, who will be performing there. He's in my horn section, which is called the world-famous Appalachian Horn Dogs. And he just released a brand-new single today. It's a jazz instrumental, but it's so cool, and I know you're going to love it. It's called It'll Be All Right. We got to check it out, right?
There it is, C.J. Wren. Hey, man, that's good stuff.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Aristotle Jones, sounds good, West Virginia. Great report as always. Many of the stations who carry our show will have your show on tomorrow morning.
Yeah, you can check out Sounds Good to Me. You can always dive into the regional music scene, the Renaissance in West Virginia. It's exploding. 2023 was a great year, and, you know, as we all kind of pack up and go inside for the winter, I just want to let everybody know, get ready for 2024 for what's in store and something more. And so there's always some good stuff for you to explore. Just check out Sounds Good to Me and go to Sounds Good WV on Facebook, or send me if you got a song you want to hear played, send me a message at WVRadio.com.
Man, sounds like a plan. Aristotle, have a good week.
This is Hotline Weekend.
Germain, how you doing today?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I got you, brother. Yeah, I got you. You know, it's funny. I went over to Gizmodo.com and saw that you wrote a little bit about Spider-Man 2, and Ryan Nicholson on our show did a video game report about this yesterday. What is the connection between Spider-Man 2, the video game, and the movie? What's up with that?
I don't know if I want to spoil it, because it's actually a pretty big thing. But obviously, Spider-Man 2, if your audience heard, is new game for PlayStation 5, and it is it's independent Spider-Man story with Peter Parker and Miles Morales, who, you know, we've seen both in animated movies and in live-action movies. These are different versions of the characters, but in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, the animated movie that came out earlier this year, there was a version of a video game Spider-Man in there. And so does this game continue that in some way? I don't want to say for sure, but maybe. And I think if anybody is interested in playing the game and wants to know more, I have 2 words for them: Spider-Bots.
Yeah, I'm looking at the story right now, and you're right. There's spoilers in here, but there's a lot of very interesting screen captures in this story.
Oh yeah. Things that it took me hours and hours to find. So if you don't want to play the game, which I recommend you should, and just want to know, check out the article. But I don't want to blast it out on the radio because someone's going to get really, really mad about it.
Fair enough. The other thing I wanted to ask you about was you wrote a really interesting piece that was posted last Friday about Wes Craven's New Nightmare. And Coop and I were just briefly talking about this in the break. I don't think I ever watched that movie, and I'm glad that you gave me a heads up that it's on Max right now.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? It's like I want to say 7th or 8th Nightmare on Elm Street movie, but it came out after Freddy's dead, which, kind of makes you think, like, what? And compared to the other ones, it was like a bomb of all bombs. It made like $14 or $15 million total. Like, you can't believe how poorly the movie did. And that was kind of the stink on it for many years, but if you watch it back now, it's really fascinating and really ahead of its time because it's a movie about our world, and the main character is Heather Langenkamp, who played the main character in The Nightmare on Elm Street, and she is the same actress. And so it's a whole thing about like what it's like to have been in a popular horror movie, and then she starts getting haunted, and she's like, well, Freddy's not real. He was in a movie with me. How could he be real? And the whole movie goes into that. It's Scream ahead of Scream for Wes Craven, and so it's really, really cool, and I really enjoyed it. It's not incredible. It's not as good as like the original Nightmare on Elm Street, but it's definitely worth checking out if you're for a little spooky something for Halloween.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Now, Coop, you said you saw this. This was 1994. Have you seen all the Freddy Krueger movies, Coop?
Man, I don't know. Maybe, probably at some point in time I've seen them all. But I do remember seeing this one, and I remember liking it more than what was commonly accepted at the time. I thought the kind of the meta approach to the movie, with it being like, they somehow manifested Freddy in the real world, and Heather, who was the star of the first film that we guess got killed at the end when the car drove away and Freddy attacked her or whatever. I felt that was actually pretty clever for its time, and it was a little weird that Freddy was, I think he was wearing like a trench coat, and like there was a little bit of some retconning to it, but I really enjoyed it way more than like Freddy versus Jason or something along those lines. So it's an interesting article that Germain wrote, because I agree that thing was a little underrated, I think, for its time.
Coop, I respect your opinion on this, because you could probably you could go up against almost anybody, maybe even including Germain, in terms of watching these types of films. You've seen them all.
That was my wheelhouse of the 80s and 90s, man. I watched so much movies during that time.
So Germain, for you, I mean, Halloween, that's right in your lane. Say, for example, you could only watch 3 Halloween-type films, 3 scary movies tonight. What would they be?
Wow. Okay, I would say the original Halloween, 1978.
Okay.
I would say the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre from, I believe it was 75. And then I would say the Blair Witch Project from 1999. Those are the only 3 movies that ever legitimately scared me the first time I watched them.
Yeah.
I love the Friday movies. I love the Nightmare movies. But even the scary ones are more fun than scary. But those 3 movies growing up scared the crap out of me. And so those would be my 3 go-tos.
I have to tell you, the Blair Witch Project, just the way that was promoted, and the internet was, relatively new. They kind of sold the thing as a documentary. I mean, the first one is so good. The second one, obviously, is so terrible. But the first movie, that's a really good example. The thing for me, though, was I had been living in Florida for a while, and I recognized one of the characters as like she was in a commercial for Steak and Shake, so I knew it wasn't a documentary.
Oh, wow. Yeah, when I saw it, I didn't know anything like that, and it was 1999. You didn't know. I mean, I actually, way back, wrote an article that said I thought the Blair Witch Project was real. I'm sure we even talked about it at some point. But I literally did, and it wasn't until a couple weeks after I saw it, I was skeptical, of course, because why would they release a movie about people dying in theaters? But I wasn't sure, and that was kind of the genius of it.
Yeah, I watched a documentary about the making of that. And the characters in the movie, there were parts of the movie that got filmed, they didn't even know what was going to happen.
Oh, yeah. Completely guerrilla, cost like $27,000 or something, and made like $300 million. I think it's still probably one of the most successful independent horror movies ever.
Yeah, good stuff. Hey, and good stuff from you, Germain. Enjoy Halloween, and we'll talk again next week.
Metro News Hotline, weekdays from 3 until 6. Syndicated over the air and online at WVMetronews.com.